Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations with Tona Brown. I am here with an icon in our community, a diamond in the rough, my buddy, Adrian Alicea. You know, this man has done so many wonderful things in the fashion industry and just been an icon in the ballroom industry. And so we just want to find out how you're doing, how we can support you, and learn a little bit more about you and the work that you have done, and set some records straight for the young people who don't know enough about the LGBTQ community and the pioneers in the community who have done fabulous, magnificent things way before Pose and all of these other shows that are fabulous as well have come out. So welcome, Adrian, to Conversations with Tona Brown. How are you doing?
Hey, Tona, I'm fabulous. I'm good. Thank you. So good to see you. First of all, I want to say thank you to the wonderful podcast, to yourself and Sydney. And I am actually good and blessed. I'm just happy to be here and just, ready to talk to you about a few things. Let's do this.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
first of all, there are some things that I know that have been on your heart that
Yeah.
you have wanted to express to the community. I am getting a lot of the pioneers on my show, and
Uh-huh.
I think it's imperative for us to know some of the history that, I think there are some people that have done a pretty good job to explain, and others that have not. Tell us a little bit about what it was like for you to travel with Willi Ninja and just the ballroom scene of the past and some of the things that you would like to set the record straight about.
Well, I mean, it's a long story, but we're gonna cut corners and make it compact it. But first of all, I want to say, R.I.P., rest in peace to my Roscoe. I've always called him Roscoe. Willie, that's his middle name, Roscoe, for those people that don't know. So Willie and we did wonderful things. And it started out way back. I met Willie, it must have been 1987 or 86 in the Palladium. And he was dancing and voguing. And I was so amazed. Back then, I was actually heterosexual, and I went there with my friends from the Bronx, and we actually competed against him doing some breakdancing and popping and hip hop, and that's how he saw us. And he said, "Who are you kids?" And we just mimicked him, and we said, "We can do what you're doing," and we noticed that he was acting very feminine and doing all these gestures, and he explained to me it's voguing, and it came from the magazine. And I said, I love this. And a few years later, he was casted by Terry Mugler and at the Patricia Fields Ball, which was by Myra Lewis, Love is in the Legend. She did a ball, and Terry, I was at that ball. Actually, my little sister had won for Body. My little sister, Miss Eileen, which is, Willie always called her the first lady of Vogue. And that day, Terry was there, Mary McFadden, I mean, Andre Leon Talley, you name it, they were all there. And Terry casted Willie. Willie was casted to walk for Terry, which was in March of '89. And then I used to work at a store called Charivari on 57th Street. Mark Jacob was the salesman. There was a lot of great people. Yes, at this store, and I was the stock boy. I remember Diana Ross. Everybody would come in. It was just so wonderful. It was so humbling. I was a kid. It was an amazing time, just being around and seeing so many fabulous people. I got a call from the famous, my sweetheart Tyrone, aka Johnny Janelle. I call him Tyrone. We call him Tyrone. Johnny called me and said, "Come to the tunnel again where we lived at, the House of Magnifique, and Terry will be there looking for Voguers." And I said, sure. I went, and I remember there was all the houses from La Beja to Ebony Extravaganza. There was a lot of houses that went there. The tunnel was basically the House of Magnifique's home, where Vin Diesel was actually the one of the bouncers. I remember. He was really cool with us. Yeah. So it's a long story. So I remember that they all started dancing, and it was Suzanne Barsh and Terry Mugler. I call him Terry, and it was Raydon Chong, and everything. She asked me to dance because they were all dancing, and she asked me to dance, and I told her that these guys were like trained ballet people. She said, "Don't worry, he just wants to see you dance." I danced. Long story short, she grabbed me and she said, "I want you to meet him." He asked me what was my name, and I told him Adrian, and he said, "Wow, like the famous Hollywood designer." I said, "I don't know who that is." He did. He said, "Adrian did all the silent films costumes back in the '30s." I said, "I had no idea." He said, "And you have this great name." And then he asked me would I come to Paris and dance for him, Vogue on the runway. And I told him I don't know if I could. My parents probably won't let me. But he said, "No, you must come." Long story short, I went. I got to Paris and I met Willi again. Never forget that day. Willi was in the bathtub full of bubbles, drinking cognac, reading a book. And he said, "Come here." And I said, "Well," he said, "Get me another glass of cognac." And I was so nervous. I got him the cognac. And we were the first two to take voguing out of the ballroom scene into the runways of Paris. So Willie and I got to say, the first two. Willie always, went by Cherokee Indian because a lot of people didn't know he was Cherokee. But of course, black man. But amazing. So Willie and I was the first two to take voguing out of the ballroom scene into the international runways of Paris. Thank God for Thierry Mugler. We did 5 shows for him that day. We started at 10 a.m., finished at 3 a.m. And it was from Naomi, Katushka, Iman. We actually walked with Iman. That was our first runway partner. After we did that, Willie asked me he just did finish doing a video with Malcolm, which was, I think back then he was with Vivienne Westwood. I don't know if he broke up with her, and I said, "Sure, I would love to be in it." He said, "We recorded a video already," which people don't know. Willie had recorded an amazing video with Malcolm, and he was an Indian in a big harem. The video was genius, and that was part of Deep in Vogue and Walt's Darling. But they did the video over, and Debbie Mazar was there. She did our hair and makeup, I believe. It was amazing that day. I can go on forever, but that was actually the first Vogue video that happened. It was with Malcolm in 1989. It was in the summer, or right after the Mugler show, probably April or May. June, the latest, we did the video for Malcolm McLaren. And oh my God, traveling with Willie over 25, 30 countries, voguing and
Incredible.
tours. It was just amazing. I mean, we actually did, just to name a few, we've danced for Elizabeth Taylor. We danced for, Fish. Fish was the rock group in Madison Square Garden in 1996. We did three days of Madison Square Garden with Fish. And we danced, we actually vogued for this rock group. Imagine, voguing for a rock group. Who's ever done that? No one.
Right.
No, no. And we toured with Grace Jones as well. So I did a lot of great things with Willie that, writing a book about it, and I'm going to do something huge about it. But that fast forward into voguing, I did the ballroom scene for a while, but I remember at a ball in 1989 after I walked for Terry, and it was a La Beija ball at Trax. And I remember Peppa asked me to walk, and I was completely nervous because these guys were like legends and icons. And I told Pepper, "Sure." She goes, "I want you to walk. You just finished doing a show for Terry. I want you to show these kids that you just did something that most of us want to do, which is get out of the ballroom scene and go do something professional. And look what you just did." So I remember I said, okay. So I went to the showroom on 57th Street or 58th Street by the Paris Theater. And I asked Terry, "Can I wear the outfit that I wore for the show?" He said, "No, you
Mhm.
can have it. Sure, of course." And he styled me in head to toe. I had
Mm.
Alan Meekley shades and Mugler head to toe. I remember we actually battled the House of Mugler when it first came out. And it was funny because when I first heard the House of Mugler in '89, I'm like, wait, I just walked for Terry Mugler. So I'm thinking, did Terry make a house? No, it was the ballroom kids. But so I'm
Right.
dressed in Mugler, and I had to battle, I'm sure, the people from the House of Mugler. And I won that day for a runway coming from a foreign country. It was $500 with a 6-foot trophy. Back then,
Mm.
500 was today's 5,000.
Right. Right.
And I remember when I won, I was nervous, and Peppa LaBeija grabbed the microphone and said, "If any of you kids dare to take his money or his trophy, you would have to go through me." And she defended me. And it was so beautiful because the way she did this and set this, it made me feel like, wow, she cared about
Hmm.
what I just did. And she mentioned, please, guys, this guy just went with Willie, and she always said, Iman, Iman. She said, and Iman, they just vogued for Terry, and give this kid his props, and he's amazing. And, you know, this is what we want to do is get out of the ballroom thing and go do something professional and do something big where we are recognized. And now seeing this 30 something years later, I understand what she said because now seeing that Pose and Madonna and Beyonce and all these people, they're doing it. And even with Jenny Levinson doing Paris is Burning, which I'm in there. I have a few
Hmm.
clips as well from the Love Ball at Roseland that I'm a part of there. I walk with Willi and Marpessa, and
Hmm.
then a part of the Malcolm McLaren video. So even being a part of that, very tiny. I mean, Willi was, of course, the star. I was just his like muse or protege, was with Willi. But I wanted to set the record straight. Most people think that Willi got me the job for Deep in Vogue, but it wasn't for Terry. I cast it for Terry, and Willi cast it for Terry. It was a casting, and we
Mm.
both got booked separately. So
Yeah.
some people say, "Oh, Willi, and he got you this." He got me jobs, and I'm very grateful because he was, the mother, the queen, that. But he took me everywhere with my little sister, and to go to Pose and the other people that, from Ryan Murphy to Madonna and all these other great people that have done it. Hooray for them. I mean, I think that the way they're doing it, they basically made it more commercial, of course, for the masses. And I just got to set the record straight that most of these, I hear people saying that it was trans women or trans people that started this. And I'm going to say that what I remember seeing from Paris Dupree and all these people that I've met, they were butch queen and drag.
Mm.
They weren't even they were drag queens, I guess, right? Cross dressers.
Right.
But today I hear people say they were women. And
Mm.
no, because I don't remember them getting the surgery. They still had their tray. They still had, you know, padded bras and padded hips. So this is what I remember as a kid, seeing them and talking to them. And backstage, they were getting dressed. They were completely full men, you
Mm.
know, but looked amazing as a woman, of course. So that record about how a trans person started this, I don't think so. I think it was more butch queen and drags or drag queens. And Vogue does come from the magazine. And there were so many elements. Today, the people saying it's only 5 elements. No. I mean, the people who started that saying that it's 5 elements, they need to do more research because Vogue, I think, is the elements go forever. I mean, it started from the old way going into new way. Then dramatics came in, of course, but and even soft and feminine, the way they vogued. I remember there was she was going into trance. It was Sandy Ninja. She was the most amazing Vogue dancer that I've seen as far as a trans person now, what we call it. Um,
Hmm.
so that's what I got to say. I know that I'm saying a lot in many different aspects, but what I remember is that people today is they're saying things that when I listen to them sometimes, I'm like, where do they get this information? You know,
Mm.
that I think that they need to do more research, or we need to have more people that were a part of this back then that to really need to speak up about it. More of the icons and the pioneers. The pioneers are the ones that I remember them, that they were amazing, who I looked up to, and they were just great people that they respected me as an upcoming dancer model. But the elements are forever. It's not just one dip.
Mm.
People say, "Oh, that one dip." No, dips were forever. They had the Kansai dip. They had so many dips and so many names of the dips
Hmm.
that today they just, you know, and it was cleaner back then. It was more poised. It was
Yes.
structured. It had the composition, the silhouette was clean. It was
Mm.
gorgeous. Models are beautiful.
Hmm.
Models, this is where it came from, Vogue magazine. So now they made it into a dance where it's a little hysterical. It became a little vulgar. It's a,
Mm.
you know, I respect it that they're doing all these antics and drama, but the ones that look cleaner to me are the ones with a dance background. The ones that don't have a dance background, they have a performance background, which is still beautiful. But I think that either way, it's beautiful. I'm happy that it's evolved where it is right now. And I think that the community should really hold on to it and not let others take the credit for what we started. And that's where it
Mm.
is. The Black, the Latino community, and there were some Asians, some Caucasians, white people in there. But, when we let the other ones take all the money and run with it and the credit, when we're the ones that started this, you know, back then when I used to go to the Elks Lodge and get in there and here in Harlem where I live now, and it's amazing. Like this is where I think that whole community with that it needs to be told in another level. And I'm glad that I can speak a little bit about it. I mean, I ran away from the Vogue, the ballroom scene once I knew that I could model professionally and I started touring
Hmm.
as a dancer with voguing. I mean, it's been so great for me. I mean, you're in voguing for Elton John at the Life Ball, for Gianfranco Ferre, Joan Rivers,
Hmm.
Donahue. I mean, I can go on. I've done so many tours and Vogue for so many amazing people that it's
Hmm.
just timeless. And it's great that where I'm at now as a designer, as a creator, as an
Hmm.
artist, I see myself making things that I used to wear back then, and friends
Mm.
of mine. So it's all a roller coaster. I should say, it's a wheel of a cycle that we've done before, but it's how we do it now. But
Absolutely. And I
oh,
just want to say, for someone from the younger generation, that I really appreciate learning, even if there are people who may not agree with certain things, but a person who was there. You know what I mean? Because I
yes,
think a lot of historical things can get convoluted and all over the place, and people, have their own opinions. But you were there,
yeah,
and for those who want to, please go to adrianalicea.com. You can see various pictures of your work, and also read your bio, which I have posted on my Facebook page for
oh,
people to
thank
be able to
you.
see as well. There are photos of you when you were young,
Uh,
touring all around the world.
mhm.
There's so many things to show your relevance
Yeah,
in LGBTQ history. And so it's my job on this podcast to get the information from the horse's mouth. And I just
yes.
want to thank you so much
You're welcome.
for being willing to speak about it, and being able to point out some of these, I don't know the right term, some of these, I don't know, I don't want to say lies, I don't think they're intentionally trying to lie, but or just
Oh.
things that are just not quite accurate.
Well, they haven't been informed. A lot of these kids today, who we calling icons because of the pioneers and the icons and the legends from back in the day, most of them are gone, rest in peace. That the ones that are here today, they're keeping their mouth shut. And I understand why, because you would have to pay them a fat check for them to open their mouth today because their knowledge. So they're letting the kids run with it and saying, no, it's this way, it's that way. And, you know, they had erased even the voguing with on the lesbian side. They have erased for the most of the butch queen side. Everything is just femme queen, femme
Mm.
vogue, and it's dramatic. It's not just that.
Yeah.
It's all like it's a
The
LGBTQ,
whole, yeah,
etc.
the whole
So
community, right?
yeah, and I've seen that it's in there, but right now what I see a lot is just based on femme voguing and what femme people are doing, which is great. I think they're all great. They look amazing. The wigs, the hair, the styling, good for them. I think it's great. But don't forget that there were once butch queens who turned to femme queens.
Yeah. So you made a very interesting point about, we don't want to forget the butch queens who turned into femme queens, or who might have transitioned,
Yeah.
when we tell this story about the history of all of these magnificent things in the ballroom scene and beyond. So could you explain a little bit about that again for us, please?
Yes, to my knowledge, and again, listening to Willie in many, many places we've been to, from Japan, Germany, etc., he would always say, you know, the Butch Queens. The Butch Queens are the ones that started this, who dressed up like drag queens and they pretended to look like women because that was their dream. So they were Butch Queens first before they turned to Femme Queens and they were voguing. So they have to remember that that's where it came from. It was the Butch Queens because they were young gay boys looking at Vogue magazine saying,
Mm.
"Oh, I want to be like this gorgeous woman, or like a
Mm.
Iman or Christy Brinkley or Beverly Johnson." You know, the women that were there first, Katushka, Coco Mitchell. This was back then the real divas, the Doña Lunas, the
Mm.
Verushka, who is a dear friend, amazing. Like these are the women that people looked at and said, wow, especially in the LGBT community, because they were posing like the girls and what it is to vogue and hold a pose. And it was very so sensual that I remember the posing that Willi would do. And then he would tell me there was a lot of hieroglyphics from the ninja posing to gymnastics to ballet, the way you combine it to even hip hop. He combined so much of it that he was telling me, like when I started voguing, he would tell me, I like the way you do it because you come from a background of the Bronx, which a lot of the popping and he used to tell me when you vogue, don't forget to incorporate that, Adrian. That is so genius that you're
Mm-hmm.
doing the voguing coming from your world of popping and locking and making it into, and then I knew a little bit of ballet and contortion and, so right away he's like, oh, you're into the new wave Vogue. But it was definitely the Butch Queens who made this happen. And
Mm-hmm.
then, of course, the drag queens, they became drag queens, and the
Mm-hmm.
drag queens into trans.
Right,
So,
right,
but
right.
but the
Thank you.
les but the lesbians were involved too, which was Butch
Absolutely. And we
Vogue.
don't
But
I would
Butch,
love if you know of any of the pioneering lesbians who were a part of the ballroom scene. I
Mhm.
would love to interview them as well because I feel that's a story that is
Yeah.
rarely ever told too.
Yeah, it's pushed under the rug because I understand how the trans community is very powerful and hooray for them. But and we want to keep them. We want to make them amazing. But it's in the catty world of ballroom. There's always been a kind of like two magnets trying to get together with a butch queen and femme queen. Which
Hmm.
sometimes when I see the battles, like a butch queen battling a femme queen for face, I never thought that was quite fair because the butch queen is still representing a male figure, and then the femme queen is
Right.
representing a female figure. So we want to try to keep them together. It's like a trans person trying to do a woman's sport. You know how they're talking about that now. Is that right?
Hmm.
I'm not the one to judge about that, but this is why they put, I guess, the lions with the lions and the zebras with the zebras. It's like the way it is, but
Right. Right.
it'd be great to all come together and just be a great unity. But yeah, I
Absolutely. And like I said, again, my job is to preserve our history.
yes,
And what I really appreciate in what you're saying is that history is not just one way and it's not just one of the letters. We need to incorporate that with everyone. And
yeah,
speaking of that, we also want to figure out how can we better serve some of you pioneers and support some of you pioneers? How can people get in contact with you? What are some of the future things that you're working on? I know you just came back from North Carolina
yeah.
and did a fantastic show. I was like watching the whole time. I love it. Tell us a little bit about the work that you're doing now.
Now I am an artist. I guess you could say fashion designer, but I didn't go to school for fashion. But I've been around the masses as I modeled for Armani and Westwood and Jean-Paul Gaultier and Thierry Mugler and Gianfranco Ferré. I got to model for these great, amazing masters in Europe and Asia, Japan, Koshin Sato. I did some great work.
Mm.
Um, so as I started, I remember when I was still dancing with Willi, I would make his creations. I had a partner named Nico. It was called Nico and Adrian. And Nico went on to do his thing. Now I have my brand. I started in 2010. And I do things for the people. I have a publicist, Tachi, who always tells me, you're a people's designer. I said, okay, I guess, because he said, you include everyone. And I do. I always say inclusivity is in and ignorance is out. That's something another friend, my friend Kelly Marine, that's his slogan, which is so good because I include people. Yeah, I can go with the 6 foot gorgeous model, the girl who's a size 2, but I also put a girl who's 4'11" and she's a great walker, or a lesbian who is looking like a truck driver and realness, and
Hmm.
to a trans person. I include them all. To me, it's
Yeah.
about their personality, and depending on the show, I
And you
had
were one
dance
of the first. You were one of the first to really, really prolifically do it in New York.
in New York, yes, because I
Hmm.
remember when I did the Jean Paul Gaultier show, there was a trans person in it, and I had no idea she was trans.
Yeah.
She was, beautiful. Even working with Terry when Connie Girl, I was a part of that. When Terry did, me and Willie did Terry, and then Connie Girl came in and she did her thing with Terry. And look at her now doing great things. So I think that now what I'm doing is creating my pieces. I do all one of a kind pieces. I'm mainly more on Instagram, which is I am Adrian Alicea. And for those of you, I know some people say Alicia, but the last name is Alicea. And I am
Mm.
Puerto Rican. Most people think I'm Arabic as well or Egyptian. I know the ancestors probably go back there, but
Hmm.
born in Puerto Rico, raised in the Bronx, and had traveled the world. I am so grateful. And everything I do is one of ones. And I was so happy to even dress you for Carnegie Hall. I mean,
That's
come on.
right.
You're an icon. I mean, look at you.
Thank
I
you.
got to do that. I would never forget that. So you're a person that, I know you go as trans person, right? And I
Hmm.
want to make sure because, we have to give pronouns and
That's
she.
right. That's
So
right.
I was so honored to dress you for that day. And it was just so beautiful. And at Carnegie Hall, I mean, come on. That's
Yeah,
huge.
and I've made sure to bring everyone on who is willing
Yeah.
because so many of you guys are so humble, that was willing to talk about the things that you all did for that historic event.
Yeah.
And it was an amazing event that we did not have a budget for.
Yeah. Yeah.
We had a small period of time
That
to
is true.
get done, and what was beautiful about it was that the Black and Latino community pulled together to make this event
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
And of course, we had all people, but that was what was mostly on the stage. And we did what we had to do, and we did it beautifully. And you made me this amazing cape that was just, I mean, the train was like 30 feet long or
It
something.
was
It
so
was
beautiful. It
just,
was so operatic. And I remember
yeah.
that when they told me Carnegie Hall, then I said, okay. And I love doing cloaks and those pieces there go back to La Belle Époque, which is the old world of Marie Antoinette, one of my favorites. Like those were people used to really dress up. So I love
Hmm.
costume, I love fantasy, I love color, I love music. I love people to get out their box, that little tiny box they were living in, get out, explore, live, and dance, and just smile and be kind to one another. And I say, back to the LGBT community, I know there's a lot of shade and a lot of cattiness, which is a part of it. I get the shade. It's great to make the applause and the adulation. Everybody loves it. But, at the end of the day, most of those kids go home crying and
Yeah.
they're lonely. And there's been, people, we need mothers and fathers to really be there for their kids because a lot of these kids get depressed. I've seen me being around it. I have friends who committed suicide, who were killed, and then we weren't there to help them or know what they were going through. So today, mental illness, and I think that
Yeah.
we have to be there for these people. So whenever I do a show, like doing a show for now for the children with autism in North Carolina, those kids changed my life because when I go there, they see my pieces and I try to give them like a hoodie and they're like, no, put me in a dress. You're going to put me in a gown.
Aw.
And I'm like, okay, I love these kids because,
Yeah.
this is what it is. So when they make you happy and this is what it is for me. So it keeps me going. I don't talk much about the world that I was in with voguing because now I'm just doing what I do. But I'm sitting and I watch, and I'm still watching, and I think it's great. And I do work with some of the houses, like the House of Silk. They've been so sweet, and a few of them now, Monster. There's some of them that are still here calling me, and they're like, Adrian, that they know what I've done, and I'm working also with a great friend named Boris, and we're going to do something in the future very soon, hopefully with the world of Vogue, and I will be involved, and it's going to be good. We're working on something, and let's just, leave it up to God to see what He can
Right.
do. I'm just honored that I was approached to do this, and of course, we will get the kids from today that are in the ballroom scene to be a part of this because it has evolved. And I'm
Oh,
not
it
mad.
has.
I'm not mad at how it has it evolved. I would just say that there's some elements, as they say, that they're leaving out, and
Hmm.
they're bringing in a lot of elements, which to me makes it so sloppy that,
Yeah, yeah.
I just remember,
I
again,
see.
Willie was telling me, keep it fabulous, keep it clean, keep it elegant. If you're going to be dramatic, okay, but still be graceful with it. You know?
Wow, that's great advice. Well, I just have to say thank you so much for coming on Conversations with Tona Brown because, again, I remember walking out in your garment and just the
Yeah.
whole audience gasping for air, going, and
Uh,
I knew it wasn't just me. It was that beauty. I mean, the train and the ruffles and just how dramatic it looked when
like,
I walked out and someone came behind me and just placed it and spread it out.
uh,
And the whole audience went crazy.
uh,
That is the power of your creations, the art that you
uh,
make. Never stop, never give
thank
up.
you,
And
honey.
my job is to support as many of you as I can. Thank you so much for coming on Conversations with Tona Brown. I cannot wait to see what you have going on. Again, people, go on Instagram. What is your handle on
My
Instagram?
Instagram handle is I am Adrian Alicea, and hopefully I will be showing for February Fashion Week. This new collection I'm working on is called, well, I'm titling it Saint Adrian, and I'm gonna go back to the world of, where I grew up in the New York and the whole world of punk. I always go there. It's how I grew up in the world of punk. It always influenced me to be different and stay out of the box. So I'll put it up in post. And I want to thank you for just being the star that you are and being humble and having this platform for people like us that we can show the world that, there's other people out there that need to see this. And I hope the younger people pay attention and not just, brush it under the rug and feeling. But I know what it is to be young and have the light upon you, and nothing else matters but you right now. So,
Right,
yeah,
right,
yeah. We'll
right.
give them
Well,
a few years.
yeah, exactly. Wait, they will learn because we've all been there, been in
Yeah.
the spotlight, been out and go in and out. And we
Yeah.
know what the industry is all about. And that's why I'm here to make sure that we preserve our history. We keep uplifting the pioneers like yourself. Thank you so much for
You're
coming on
welcome, honey.
Conversations with Tona Brown. Thank you, everyone who is listening. Please make sure that you rate, subscribe, join us. Also, know that for season 2, I have a GoFundMe campaign that's up so that we can keep raising money, so that we can keep Conversations with Tona Brown going. Please make sure you check that out. Also, Adrian, you can find him on his website, adrianalicea.com. Please check that out whenever you get a chance. If you need something fabulous, he also has these lovely handbags. He has so many different things that you can go and show your support of this man. So I just love him to death. Thank you
Love you.
guys for joining us again on Conversations with Tona Brown. Until the next one, I'll see you guys soon.
Okay.
Peace.
Love you.